Namaste, everyone. So this practice, we're going full yin today. You've worked a lot throughout the last several days. If you've been doing every day with all your vinyasas and the standing poses, and they're great. But we have to think about it from a physiological point of view. Is it still kind of like exercising, right? Chair poses or squats, warriors or lunges, chaturangas or push-ups. So we need at least a day of recovery. And a yin practice is a great way to incorporate that, but still feel like you've done something. So yin, as I explained in a previous practice, it's a slower, more quiet practice. And we hold poses for typically about 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes more. For today's purposes, we're going to stick within that 3-minute time frame. We're going to do a back bend. We're going to do a hip opener. And then we're going to do a pose that kind of incorporates a lot of elements. It's got a twist. It's got a chest opener. It's got a hint of a back bend. It's got an IT band. It's got a hamstring stretch. It's got so much. We're going to start, though, on our bellies in Sphinx pose. I got to grab my timer here. So we're going to come down onto our belly. And shift your elbows up under your shoulders. Let me find my clock here real quick. So in traditional Sphinx pose, we're very active in it. This one, we're going to let our feet go a little bit wider. Like if you can see, mine are going to be a little bit wider than my hips. And then your hands are about shoulder width apart. Now, traditionally in Sphinx, you would push your feet or your hips into your mat, probably squeeze your glutes a little bit. We're not doing any of that. You could just stay right here and just work the back bend and the easy stretch of the front side of your body. You could sink down a little lower into the shoulders, like the Sphinx just given up, like it's hot and it's dusty. And then you could either bring your chin down just a little bit, or you could let your chin rest on your chest. That's a really good option if you look at your phone a lot. If you want more of a back bend and not quite so easeful, peaceful, you can take your hands apart and straighten your arms, come into seal pose. And chin would be parallel to the floor. You could tip it up a little bit to stretch the front of the neck. You don't want to go all the way back. I mean, it's just called seal pose. You're not trying to actually, catch any fish in your mouth. And we're going to go about a little less than 2 more minutes here. Now, if you're in Sphinx and you're like, oh, why'd I do that? Feel free to come down to that Sphinx pose. Or sorry, if you're in seal. I'm going to try and hang out till about the 2-minute mark and seal myself. Let your breath land into its natural rhythm. Don't try to force anything here. You got a little over a minute left in this pose. I'm going to come back down into Sphinx. Thirty more seconds. And you're going to take your elbows out to the sides and just stack your hands on top of each other and rest your forehead there. Rock your hips side to side or bend the knees and windshield wiper the legs. Let's bring those hands up under the shoulders. We're going to make our way into a seated position. We're going to start to go into the hips. We're going to start in one pose and then maybe transition that into another. If the first pose I show you is enough for you, then just stay where you are. So right leg's going to be in front. You want that right shin to be kind of parallel to your mat or to your screen. And then you're just going to bring this left leg off to the side. And it's at about a 90-degree angle. I've got my knee in line with my hip, my ankle in line with that knee. We'll start our timer. This is called deer pose. Now, if you're a little tighter in the hips, just bring your hands off to the side of this right leg, and maybe that's going to be where you stay. Or you're going to come down over this front shin. This is a good alternative to pigeon, or as we call it in yin, swan pose. If you have a knee issue in pigeon pose, you probably don't have that issue in this shape. So we're going to stay here for about a minute, and then you'll have the option to either turn that into swan or to stay in this for the full 3 minutes. It's sort of pre-swan. Swan the prequel. So if you're going to stay in the shape of deer, you're like, I have a lot of feelings going on in this hip. Just stay where you are. Otherwise, I like to bring my right foot back a little bit. Then I just kind of shift and maneuver my way into pigeon so that that right leg is extended behind me. For swan, I let my right knee come a little outside my right wrist. And then you can stay on the forearms, elbows here. If you feel like you want to go lower, by all means, feel free to bring chest down, like so. We are at about the halfway mark. You have a little more than a minute here. About 45 seconds. So start walking the hands back towards you, whether you're a deer or a pigeon. I like to hop that back foot forward about a good step. Oh, and then take it back to down dog. You can be still in this dog or pedal out the legs. Then we're going to come back down. We're going to take it to that other side. So left shin in front, right shin off to the side. Now this side is usually not my cooperative deer or pigeon. So I'll start with my hands over here, and I'll probably stay over here for a little bit longer than I did on the first side. If you find this to be your easy side, then don't wait on me. Go right on over that shin. Okay, it's not so bad for me today. I like to pop my toes whenever I can. It's a really annoying habit to some, but I actually kind of dig it. So remember, if you have a knee or hip situation, that maybe this is where you stay. You could also, if this isn't super comfortable, come onto your back and do that ankle on thigh pose that we do. All right, so I'm going to draw my left foot a little closer to me. And then I'm just going to roll myself over into the shape of my pigeon. If you get there, again, you can go to that deer. You can also go to that supine thread the needle, where it would be left ankle on right thigh. This is going to take us into one of my most favorite poses. Like, that was genuine. That wasn't like a snarky, this is going to be an unpleasant moment. It actually is one of my favorite poses. You got about 1 more minute here. "45 seconds. I really do think that the left side always seems to take longer. All right, let's start walking those hands back towards us. Oh, sound effects help. Back to downward facing dog. So just cursing, but I'm trying not to do that on here. Pedal out the legs, but you could drop as many bombs as you like. All right. So now the next pose is a lying down pose. You're going to come down onto your left side. And you want to try to make yourself as straight of a line as you can from your head to your toes, okay? I know that part of my legs are not showing here, but it's all going to make sense in just a moment. Now, you're going to bring that top leg, it's the right one in this case, forward. So your right foot may line up with your right hip. If you're a little tighter, it might be more in line with like your thigh or your knee. And if you're really flexible, it might be like up here in line with your chest. You're going to use that left arm to support your head. Then this could be the pose for you right here. You could be like, wow, that's a lot of things happening. Or that top shoulder, your right one, you could start to drop it back. It may or may not touch the floor. Now, as I start to drop my shoulder back, I let my left hand kind of cradle my head. And then this could be the pose for you right here. Or, last part of the puzzle could be you bend that left knee, you grab that left foot with your left hand. Yeah, cat chasing its tail is what this is called. And I guess if you take that bottom foot, the cat caught the tail. We're going to go for about another 1.5 minutes here. But I love this pose so much because you get so many elements. And you can always, again, just drop certain elements as you want. You get about 1 more minute. About 30 seconds, slightly more. Always get out of this pose feeling much taller. Now we're going to release this bit by bit. So the first part is if you're holding onto that left foot, release it and try not to spring that leg out. Just take your time to re-extend it. Then the next part is we're going to draw our belly in and draw that right shoulder forward so that it's stacked over this left shoulder again. Then the last part is to bend that right knee, drag that right leg back to the left. You can roll onto your belly or onto your back. And pause, take a couple of deep breaths in and out while I change sides. Just so you don't have to look at my butt for like 2.5 minutes. So then you're going to make your way onto your left side. All right, so right arm, again, is sort of our little support or pillow. Top leg, left leg, is going to come forward. Again, don't be too concerned about where it lands. If you feel something happening in this hip and that hamstring, you're exactly where you need to be. This could, again, be your pose, or you start to drop that left shoulder back, maybe kind of creating a little cradle for your head along the way. Again, if this is your tighter side, don't be, beating yourself up or trying to hurry through. And then again, last part could be that you bend that right knee and grab that left foot. Now when I grab that right foot. Now when I grab my foot, I don't like to hold it up here because I feel like that torques my knee. So try to let it drop down. Wanted to see if I could pop my toes. I could. You're almost at that halfway point. If you wait for that full expression and you're like, wanting to let go of something, I would let go of the bottom foot first. You get about a minute. Again, this is just kind of like a Swiss Army knife pose. You just get so many benefits from it. I love it. A little bit more than 30 seconds. So the first part you want to let go of is that bottom foot, if you're holding it. Re-extend that leg. Draw your belly in. Draw that left shoulder forward. Then bend that top knee. Drag that leg back. Let's all roll onto the back this time. And hug those knees in. Rock side to side. And we're going to find our way to a seated position. Just an easy cross-leg seat. We're going to take a twist, and then we'll meditate for a little bit, and then take you into Shavasana. So left hand to that right knee, right hand behind you. Just an easy twist to the right. Keep your spine long. Either look to the wall to your right, or maybe look to that back shoulder. And we'll come back to the center. Other leg in front. Right hand, left knee, left hand behind you. And then we'll come back to the center. Find you a comfortable seat. We're going to bring the tips of our fingers together and let our hands rest in our lap. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Trying to let your attention land on just your breath. And a lot of times when we hear bringing our attention to our breath, it makes us feel like there's something about the breath we need to change. Just let your breath be as it is. And just note the breath. As you breathe in, breath. As you breathe out, breath. I'm not trying to coordinate the breath to that. But just breath, breath. And as thoughts pop into the mind, just for the purpose of this exercise, just note not the breath, and bring your attention back to breath, breath. out the breath. 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 If you can roll down onto your back while keeping the eyes closed, and take about 3 to 5 minutes for your Shavasana. Please feel free to do that. Otherwise, thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.